Here's a look at a recap of your markets on this Monday, the 31st day of March. As we mentioned this morning, most of the big news today came in the grain markets as we had two major reports released today. The biggest report, of course, was the first official estimates for the grain season with the prospective plantings report. Corn came in at 95.3 million acres. That's 5% above last year, slightly higher than the average guess by about 1 million acres, but that did fall within the pre-report estimate ranges. For beans, 83.5 million acres. That was down 4% from a year ago and really close to the pre-report estimates. Although corn may be king for the nation here in Missouri, soybeans always rule. We plant a lot more soybeans than we do corn. For Missouri, we're expected to plant about 3.8 million acres of corn this year. That was up 10% from last year. 5.7 million acres of soybeans, which is down 3% from last year. But if we look back to the 2003 crop year, which would make sense when we figure in crop rotations, those numbers are just about right on track with what we did back in 2023. Nationwide, if we look at all of the reporting states, which would be the continental 48 states, 40 of those 48 states this year are expected to plant steady to more acres of corn this year than last year. Taking a look at some of our cattle markets around today, we'll start off with our tracking measures. The CME feeder cattle index up sharply when we get all of last week's numbers in, 291.50 based on an 800-pound steer up through the 12-state feeding region. That, of course, setting an all-time new record high. Here in Missouri, looking at the Missouri Stocker formula, based roughly on a 550-pound steer, we're setting at 371.72. That was 40 cents lower than Friday, but up $8.23 from where we were this time a week ago. We did set a record on that midweek last week, and then we saw some of the late week drop off just a touch, but still setting at awful high levels. Box beef cutout values, if we take out that 1 week back in June of 2023 during the Holcomb County fire that happened there, if we take that number out of the data pool, both our Choice and Select basically setting at all-time record highs right now. Choice closed on Monday, 335.26, up 244. Select at 320.01, up $1.33. Those values based on 120 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds today. The Choice Select spread setting at 15.25. Negotiated feedlot trade, basically a standstill today, just a bit over 100 heads scattered around. Not really anything for a Monday, which is kind of getting back to the old days where we didn't expect trade to really happen until Friday. That kind of seemed to be normal back when I started this job many years ago. On Monday, or today, looking at all of last week's data, we ended up with 62,630 head of negotiated sales. Live sales were down 42 cents on the weight average to $11.91. Dress sales were up $2 and a dime at $337.30. Looking at slaughter for today, Monday's cattle slaughter expected to be 104,000 head. Monday's hog slaughter, 469,000 head. Taking a look at the Joplin Regional Stockyards, the sale there today got their mid-session market. They're expecting to have about 10,000 head. Feeder steers under 800 pounds, steady to $8 lower. Heavier weight steers stayed at $2 higher. The heifer selling steady to $7 lower. Feeder steers, medium and large ones, 400 to 500 pounds at 400 to 450, 5 to 6 weights at 360 to 400, 6 to 7 weight steers at 313 to 350. 7 to 8 weights at 284 to 310, 8 to 9 weights at 270 to 288.50, 900 to 1,000 pound steers at 260.75 to 262. Feeder heifers, 400 to 500 pounds, $350 to $400. 5/6 weights at $305 to $343. 6/7 weights at $276 to $306. 7 to 8 weight heifers at $259 to $271. Taking a look at the closing futures markets on the Mercantile Exchange, both of our cattle complexes running significantly behind the cash market currently. April live cattle 207.80 down $1.02. June at 203.65 down $120, and August $200.02 down 97. Feeder cattle for April 286.45 down 47. May at 284.50 down 67. August 289.50 down 17. Lean hogs for April, the only positive in the livestock complex today, up $1.02, 87.72. May was down 7 at 88.40, and June 95.27 down 50. Taking a look at the grain markets at the elevators around the state today, wasn't a whole lot of change at the elevators or on the Board of Trade, as it seemed most people had pretty much calculated in what was going to be reported with the Stocks and Perspective Planning's report. Of course, one other unknown this week will come later this week when we talk about tariffs once again. So just a whole lot happening that could affect the grain markets this week. But at least we got through the first day without any negative or positive news that will move the markets in any extreme ways. At the elevators on Monday, soybean bids 3 to 9 higher, wheat 9 higher, corn 4 to 6 higher. Corn bids at the elevators in St. Louis 468 to 470, Kansas City 417 to 451. Soybean bids St. Louis 1031 to 1033, Kansas City 959 to 1014. Wheat bids in St. Louis 521 to 537, Kansas City at 517. On the Board of Trade, corn contracts, May was up 457 and a quarter. July 463 and a quarter, up 3 and a quarter. The rest of the contracts fractionally lower for the day. September closed down a half cent at 434 and 3/4. Soybeans, May was down 8 and a quarter. 1014 and 3/4. July at 1028 and a quarter, down 9. August at 1026, down 8. Wheat contracts did have some slightly positive gains today. May 8 3/4 higher, 537. July at 550 and a half, up 7 3/4. September up 7 at 566 and a quarter. Soybean meal for May down 80 cents a ton, 292.70. Soybean oil for May down 27 cents a hundredweight at 44.89. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a recap of your markets for Monday. This is Tony Hancock.